Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to my reading nook, or welcome if you're new here to both of those things. The fact that I'm starting this video in this corner and also wearing this specific shirt, this is my one piece of book merch that I own. I can't believe I only have one thing, but if I was gonna have one thing, it would naturally be this. Dorian. That can only mean one thing. We're talking about books today. Yay! And not just any books, but 2025 summer new releases. Okay, we have a lot on the agenda today that we need to get into. I've compiled a list of 20 summer 2025 new releases released from May to August this year that are on my radar, that I've read, that are on my TBR, that are being released soon and I'm excited about. I'm filming this in the beginning of July right now, so over half of these books are out already. For any book that isn't out right now, I'm gonna put the release date on the screen, and I'm also gonna link everything that I'm talking about, including the shirt. I'll link the shirt too, because you know what? I think if you're a Dorian girl, listen, I could talk about Dorian. I love that man. I will link all the books that I'm talking about down below. I'm just gonna link them on Amazon because it's the easiest and the cheapest way to get them. Also, if you're a Kindle user, you can just download them from there. But obviously check your library first and or the Libby app, or if you have a local bookstore in your area, go there. But yeah, I took notes. Like, this is very serious right now so that I could give you brief summaries. Obviously no spoilers because I haven't even read these books. For all of the books that I'm about to tell you about, you're gonna get a good sense of my reading taste. For a little overview of the 20 books that I'm about to talk about, we have 4 contemporary fiction, 2 historical fiction, 3 romance, 8 thriller mystery type books. I just lumped them in together. 2 fantasy/romantasy, and 1 nonfiction. As you can see, very thriller mystery heavy. There's just a lot of good new release thriller mystery books this summer, I guess. In the summer, my 2 genres of choice typically are romances, because it just feels like the vibes are right, and thriller mysteries, but specifically like a summer thriller mystery that takes place at like the lake or on an island or at a camp of some sort, or something that gives summery vibes, I eat up. And typically I'm also a fall fantasy girl, but there are a couple of fantasy new releases that I'm gonna talk about. I got this at the store the other day. I love La Colombe. When I used to live in New York City, I went to La Colombe regularly, and they always have these specialty lattes. They switch them out for the seasons, but I saw this one at the grocery store the other day. It's the s'mores latte. Okay, this is such a good summer vibe. I feel like for this video, like a nice little campfire. So let's crack this open. How could this be bad? Oh my freaking God, it smells so good. Dude, it smells like, has anyone else had that cereal called Count Chocula? It smells like that. It tastes exactly like Count Chocula, bro. Are you kidding me? I love it. Now we can really get started. I'm feeling pumped up. Starting with the books that were released in May. The first book that I have to tell you about is one that I have and have already read, of course, One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune. This is an interconnected standalone with Every Summer After, which, oh God, please don't fall on me. Fun fact, I actually just influenced my mom to read Every Summer After, and she loved it. Now I'm bringing home One Golden Summer for her. So you don't have to read Every Summer After first, but I do highly recommend reading this first because there's certain things that are talked about in this book that I feel like if you haven't read Every Summer After and you don't know the lore of that one, you won't really fully get some of the things they talk about in this, or they won't hit as hard. Where this book is about Sam Florek and Percy. This book is about Sam's older brother, Charlie. So it's set in Barry's Bay, same setting as Every Summer After, which is just a great setting. It's like a lake town, small town. Charlie lives in Barry's Bay, so he's our male main character of this book, and then our female main character is named Alice Everly. Charlie and Alice actually both spent the summer in Barry's Bay at the same time when they were teenagers, but they never crossed paths or met at all and didn't know who each other was, except for one photo that Alice took, and this is kind of the photo that kickstarted her career. She's a photographer, she lives in the city. What really kickstarted her photography passion is taking this photo the summer that she spent at Barry's Bay, and it was of 3 other kids in a yellow boat boating across the lake. Those 3 people in that happened to be, of course, Charlie Florek, Sam Florek, and Percy. That picture was taken while this book was happening. Alice currently lives in the city, but she decides to spend this summer in Barry's Bay with her grandma. Her grandma's friends have a cottage in Barry's Bay, and that's where they stayed before when Alice went the one time when she was younger. They go back to that cottage. Alice and Charlie naturally run into each other. Charlie's the one who's informally assigned to helping Alice and her grandma at the cottage and like fixing anything that they need. Charlie is known as very much a ladies' man, a flirt, not the kind of guy that you would want to maybe open your heart to. Alice feels that way when she meets him and hears about him. She's like, okay. But as Alice and Charlie keep encountering each other, they end up striking up a friendship. We see different sides that they bring out of each other that they don't necessarily show to the world, but they get comfortable with each other and open up to each other, and it's very sweet. Like, just for Charlie specifically, since we know him better, if you've read the other book too, seeing him come out of this persona that he has and just what's really beneath the surface and the way that she brings that out of him is just really, really sweet. I loved this book. I gave this book a 4-star. It was such a fun read, a fun summer read. I need to not talk nearly as long as I just did about that book for the rest of these because I have 19 more to go. And if I keep doing all that, we're gonna be for the rest of our lives. Next book I also have, and I've also already read, and that is Freida McFadden's new release called The Tenant. I was really excited for this book. I've only read a couple other Freida McFadden books. She isn't my very favorite thriller type author. I feel like Riley Sager is usually my favorite thriller author, but I was really looking forward to this book because of the premise. This book follows an engaged couple, Blake and Krista. They live in a brownstone in New York City, and Blake was just abruptly laid off from his job. So money is tight. They need to find a way to bring in more funds, and they decide to open up one of the bedrooms in their brownstone to a tenant. So then in comes a woman named Whitney, and at first glance, she seems very normal, kind, respectful, funny, whatever. Her and Krista get along well, but over time, after they rent the room to her, there just becomes this like growing sense of unease in the house, specifically to Blake. Blake will voice these feelings to Krista, his fiance, and she's kind of like, what the hell are you talking about? Makes Blake feel like he's absolutely lost his mind. So the longer that Whitney lives with them, the more Blake actually feels like he's losing his mind. So there's just weird shit happening while she's living there, but Blake is like the only one who's noticing it. So he's like, something is off, like something is amiss here. Things escalate extremely quickly. Like, and Krista's relationship gets strained because they're fighting about Whitney, because Blake is like, we gotta kick her out of here, and Krista's like, you're being dramatic. She's not doing anything wrong. This was a very quick read. I read this in, I think, one sitting just because I needed to know what happened, but I feel like at the end of it, I didn't feel as like fulfilled, I guess, by the full story as I thought I would. It was still a quick, fun read. Next, The Missing Half by Ashley Flowers. This is another mystery. I feel like this is more mystery than a thriller. Ashley Flowers, if you didn't know, is the host of the podcast called Crime Junkie. This one is set in the town of Mishawaka, Indiana, and it's a kind of a town that nothing really ever happens there, you know what I mean? Except for the fact that 2 young women went missing, similar ages, in very similar circumstances, 2 weeks apart, and both of them went unsolved and the women were never found. So the 2 missing girls are Casey and Jenna, and then this story follows their sisters. So Casey's sister's name is Nick and Jenna's sister's name is Jules. Jules comes into town and approaches Nick and is basically like, I have new information that could potentially help your sister's case. She thinks that their sister's cases are connected, so they kind of form this like alliance, turns into a friendship. They're trying to put their heads together and the facts that they both have for their respective cases to try to find answers for both of their sisters and what the hell happened. This book makes the sisters, specifically one of them, really question everybody in her life, everyone that she's trusted and people that she thought she knew, but she didn't. This was also, I think I read this in maybe 1 or 2 sittings. I just fly through a mystery thriller. I have to know what happened immediately. All right, now for a book I don't have and haven't read yet. This is one of our fantasy books. This is a romantasy. It's called Shield of Sparrows by Devaney Perry. As I said, typically the fall time is my fantasy time, so I might honestly save this one for the fall, but it is on my TBR. This is a high stakes, slow burn, enemies to lovers romantasy. So this follows Princess Odessa, who is the eldest daughter of the King of Quentis. And she's basically lived her entire life in the shadow of her younger half-sister. She kind of just like, I don't know, lays low, keeps low profile, doesn't really have to do much. Princess Odessa's life takes an unexpected 180 when she's thrust into this political marriage with a prince. So her and Prince Xavier end up having to get married because of a treaty called the Shield of Sparrows. So Odessa has to go from being a very low-key, unsuspecting princess who didn't really have to do anything to now navigating her dangerous world filled with secrets and monsters and this mysterious illness alongside her now prince husband. And then there's all these new and dangerous expectations that are put on her, and she has to decide if she wants to fulfill those expectations or forge her own path. I feel like a lot of the time in romantic novels, at least the ones that I've read, the female main character is this like badass assassin type, like really tough as nails person to begin with, but this is kind of the complete opposite of that. I think that will be interesting. I haven't read a lot of romantic books set up that way. Might table that one for fall, but that is a new release. It's out already. Next book is My Friends by Frederick Bachman. This is a very anticipated new release. Our main character is Louisa. She is soon to be 18 years old and she's an aspiring artist. And she is fascinated by this one specific painting. It's this like big ocean expanse. There's a pier, and then super small in the corner of the painting, most people don't even realize they're there, there's these 3 people sitting on the end of the pier. And she is so fascinated by them and their stories. Then rewind like 2 decades before this, we go to a seaside town and we get the backstory of these 3 people. It's these 3 teenagers, and they find solace from their own personal like shitty home lives by spending time together at the pier over the summer, and they just give each other a reason to get up every day. I think that the found family aspect in Frederick Bachman's books is so great, and it's one of the things that I love the most about him as an author. So these 3 people are the subjects depicted in the painting, and this painting ends up somehow put into Louisa's hands. Like, she gets the painting and she's determined to figure out what the story is behind these people and what to do with the painting. So she embarks on this cross-country trip to try to get answers for that. And as she gets closer and closer to the painting's birthplace, she gets more and more anxious about what she's gonna find out about it. And then the summary said, Louisa's complicated life is proof that happy endings are possible, but they don't always take the form we expect. So we really have 2 kind of storylines going on here. Louisa's and her whole thing and her getting the painting, and then the 3 teenagers back in the past who became the subject of the painting. So I just think this sounds really interesting. It sounds summery, but still with a good, warm, found family feel and an interesting plot. So I'm really excited to read this one. And then finally for May, we have Main Characters by Hannah Orenstein. This is another contemporary fiction. I have heard very mixed reviews on this one. I've heard it described as sort of an adult Parent Trap, but very loosely. They're not going to a summer camp and meeting, being 2 child identical twins, but the story does follow 2 half-sisters, Vivian and Lucy. They share a dad, but that's pretty much it. Like, only one of the sisters knows that the other one even exists. Every summer growing up, Vivian and Lucy both spent a week at their dad's lake house in a small town in Maine, but separately. And they've never met until this summer. They both end up at the cabin at the same time, but for very different reasons. Vivian goes to the cabin to spread her late father's ashes there and also sell the cabin, and Lucy shows up awaiting her father's return. They have this like shock of meeting each other for the first time under unfortunate circumstances of their dad passing away. They're forced to spend the summer together, and instead of leaning on each other while they're grieving their father's passing, they bicker and they butt heads and fight. They're suspicious and hostile of each other and of their histories and their parents' histories, and trying to piece together the messy truth about their parents' pasts, and also figure out if there's a way for them forward as sisters for the first time ever. I think I might try to get the audiobook for this one, see if it's on Spotify and listen to it. But it does sound like a good summer read. Like, the setting sounds like something I would really enjoy. I just love a book set at a lake. Definitely the only Parent Trap thing is like just the 2 sisters who didn't know about each other and there being like a cabin and a lake, kind of similar to the camp thing, but the thought was there. That is it for the books from May. All right, new month, new location, because my other camera was overheating every 5 minutes and it was really starting to piss me off. So now we're on a different camera also. Lots of changes going on, but we are now in June. This month produced one of my favorite books, the best book that I've read all year. My favorite book that I've read all year. And that is Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This book was a masterpiece. It was so good. I am still thinking about it. I had like a week-long book hangover after I finished this book. Couldn't stop thinking about it. Wanted to go back into their world. I wish she would write a sequel to this. I want to know so bad. I want to keep following them. This was a phenomenal book. I rated it 5 stars. It could honestly be a 6-star. It is that good. It is set against the backdrop of the 1980s NASA space shuttle program, and they're just starting to allow women into the program. So Joan Goodwin, she's a professor of physics. She's always loved the stars, always loved space. She applies to be one of the first women in NASA's space shuttle program. She doesn't get accepted with the first round, but she does with the second. She begins training at the Johnson Space Center in Houston along the other ASCANs, astronaut candidates, as it's known in the book. They form their own very strong found family, and it's forged by their very unique job. There's altering timelines, and the book starts off in the present where there's actively a disaster happening on a space shuttle mission, all this craziness happening, and then it goes back a few years to where it all started and begins Joan's story. Joan is our main character, befriending her colleagues, meeting a woman named Vanessa. We see Joan's family life. She has a sister who has a daughter, so Joan's niece is like the center of her world, and there's different like things going on with that. It is just so fantastic. Also, I've always been fascinated by space and NASA and just all of that stuff. I've never wanted to be an astronaut or anything like that, but I just find it so fascinating, and I just think that NASA is so cool. Taylor Jenkins Reid did an amazing job researching this and really setting the scene and making you feel like these characters really existed in this time period. There is an LGBTQ romance in this, and a lot of focus on being a woman in a male-dominated government field in the 80s. It's a masterpiece. Next, we have a thriller. Another thriller. This one is by Riley Sager, who I said earlier is one of my favorite thriller authors. This one's called With a Vengeance. Right off the bat, when I saw the cover of this book and read just the brief synopsis, there's a train on the cover, and it immediately gave me like Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie vibes. As soon as I saw Riley Sager had a new book out this summer, it was immediately on my TBR. I love his thrillers. So this one follows main character Anna Matheson, and her family was destroyed allegedly in 1942. Don't actually know what that means, but 12 years later, she decides she wants to hunt these people down and take justice into her own hands. So she lures all 6 of the people who destroyed her family. Does it say how they did that? Maybe that's like part of, I just need to read the book. She lures all 6 of the people onto a luxury train from Philadelphia to Chicago, which is an overnight journey of 14 hours. And her plan is just to like round them up, I think, and confront them and hand them over to the authorities to get her family justice. But when one of the passengers that Anna is eyeing gets murdered while on the train, Anna realizes that there's somebody else on board who's also targeting those same people. So now Anna is kind of in this race against this murderer to save the people that destroyed her family so that she can get justice for her family, but she wants to keep them alive, obviously, and she's like kind of racing against the clock and this other person. Obviously, this is very dangerous, and she's putting her life at risk in the process. This is no summer theme whatsoever, but it's a new release in June, and I love Riley Sager, so it's on this list. Next up, we finally have a romance. Sounds Like Love by Ashley Poston. Ashley Poston writes contemporary romances with a touch of magical realism. I read The 7-Year Slip in a vlog maybe a year or 2 ago. Absolutely loved it by Ashley Poston. But this one is about our female main character named Joni Lark, and she's a successful songwriter living in LA, but she's originally from North Carolina, so she ends up going back to her hometown because she's just feeling empty and down and just wants to go back home and kind of recoup a little bit. And her family owns a music venue in her hometown, so she goes back home to spend some time with her family, spend some time at the music venue, except that when she arrives and she's expecting it all to be like very nostalgic and comforting, nothing is as she left it, and everything around her seems to be crumbling down as well. One day, she hears this melody in her head, and it's accompanied by the voice of a musician singing about his own problems, and it's just like, this is where the magical realism comes in. She's just hearing this as if it just magically appeared in her head, and obviously she thinks she's going crazy, and she figures she must have imagined it because what on earth? But then a man shows up in her hometown, and of course he's grumpy and aggravating, as I love them to be. He is the guy. He's the guy from the song in her head. He sounds like him in voice, but not in attitude. Like, the guy who was singing in her head seems very longing and loving, and this guy sounds nothing like them. He's just like kind of an asshole. And it turns out that he has the same song in his head. So him and Joni team up to try to finish the song and release them both from whatever this connection is that they have with these matching songs in their head. And they're trying to protect their hearts in the process of doing so. And this is such an interesting concept. Ashley Poston is very creative with the way she incorporates her magical realism and the different concepts, so I'm very excited to read this one. Next, we have another thriller, mystery sort of book. Now, this is what the hell I'm talking about for summer. This is called It Happened on the Lake by Lisa Jackson, and it's set against the backdrop of a huge Victorian house on a private island on a lake. As I said before, thrillers, mysteries in the summer on a lake. Like, yes, it makes sense to me. It's exactly the vibe. The house in question belongs to our main character, Harper Prescott, whose grandmother died suspiciously in her care on the same night that her boyfriend also went missing 20 years ago, and the boyfriend was also never found. Harper and her family are surrounded by rumors. I mean, obviously, with what I just told you, and just like accidents and deaths, kind of like they're cursed almost. It's giving Kennedy curse, I don't know. And the town has always thought Harper had something to hide, which she does. 20 years later, Harper's marriage is over and her college-age daughter is estranged, and Harper returns to the house on the lake with the intent to sell it. But of course, returning to the lake stirs up memories, whispers, and Harper has this weird feeling that she's being watched, and she's discovering that she might have even more to fear than she has to hide. Anytime somebody is harboring dark secrets and it's set on a lake in the summer, yeah, give it to me. And then the last book for June, this is the only nonfiction on this list, but it's actually my current read. It's called We Might Just Make It After All by Elise Aarons. Here's the book. I really love the cover as well. This is a book, a memoir about Elise Aarons and her best friendship with Kate Spade. Elise and Kate are the co-founders of the global fashion brand that you've probably heard of, Kate Spade. This book is all about Elise and Kate's friendship, how they met in college, going through their coming of age in New York City in the 90s, to building the iconic fashion brand that we all know today, all while working other jobs, falling in and out of love, and just trying to make it in New York City in the fashion world. I started it this morning and I'm already loving it. So there's so many things happening here. Like, we have the entrepreneurial, like, building this fashion empire, seeing where they came from, and the fact that they were able to, as we know, achieve so much success, and just kind of seeing how they did it. And of course, the female friendship element in this book is very strong. And Kate Spade battled mental health struggles, which is something that I relate to. So there's just a lot of elements in this book. So I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm only on chapter 4. And they're still in college. They're college seniors right now. When it comes to nonfictions, I feel like a lot of the time I listen to nonfictions as audiobooks because it plays like a podcast to me. But certain books like this that I have more of a vested interest in, I will buy the physical copy. But that's all for June. So now we're moving into July. I'm really trying to speed this up because I sat in the other room and talked for literally like 30 minutes about 5 books, and we just can't have that if we want to be here any less than 3 hours. Moving into July. Starting off with a contemporary fiction, we have Spectacular Things by Beck Dory Stein. This book follows the story of 2 sisters, Mia and Cricket, and they're from a small town in Maine. Growing up, the girls were both gifted in their own rights. They were daughters of a young single mother. Mia has always been a caregiver, and at way too young an age, so now in adulthood, she's reluctant to fall in love at risk of repeating a terrible history. Cricket, on the other hand, plays soccer. She's full of energy and talent, but she's questioning if her pursuit of her lifelong goal will be the thing to drive her sister away. Together, as they've grown up, they've had to grapple with the legacy of their mother's secret while navigating their own futures. What is their mother's secret? I don't know. That's why it's a secret. I would like to find out though. And it begs the question, when does loyalty become self-sabotage? So it's a story of 2 sisters growing up, trying to figure out their own stuff, trying to figure out things together. Next, we have another contemporary fiction called These Summer Storms by Sarah McLean. This one is about a wealthy New England family's long overdue reckoning with hidden desires, destructive secrets, and one week that threatens to tear them apart. When I first read the summary of this, it was kind of giving New England vibe adult inheritance games. If you've read that series, I absolutely love that series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. So this book follows the Storm family, and specifically Alice. All of Alice's siblings have been battling for their parents' attention forever, battling for their attention, their approval, their inheritance, except for Alice. Alice honestly couldn't give less of a fuck. She's determined to forge her own path. She doesn't really relate to her siblings. She does her own thing and she's happy that way. Their family has a private island off of the coast of Rhode Island. It's called Storm Island, so they're rich. Alice, however, has no desire to return to her family's island, but unfortunately, her father shockingly passes away and she has to return to the island and reunite with all of her family. Her goal really with this though is to get in, pay her respects, and leave. But her father had other plans for them in the form of one last challenge for his widow and grown children for their inheritance. Literally the inheritance games. The rules of the challenge are as follows. Stay on the island for 1 week, complete the given tasks, and receive the inheritance. Seems easy, especially on a private island like on the lake. How hard can that be? I would pay to do that. The Storm family is chaotic and dysfunctional, and Alice feels like spending 1 week on this island with her family under the same roof with everybody in the midst of all of their own shit will be impossible. There's got to be some more shit than like Or is she being drama? We'll have to see, but I really want to read this book. This sounds like a really fun read. I don't know if there's any like murdery thriller vibes in this. It's not really giving that. All right, next we have our second fantasy. This one is A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sangu Mandana, and I absolutely love Sangu Mandana. She wrote The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, which I read last fall in a video. I absolutely loved it. It was so cozy. And the found family aspect in that book, it just was so heartwarming, and the sense of belonging that the main character ended up feeling. So I'm very excited to read another book by her. This one follows main character Sarah Swan, who was one of the most powerful witches in Britain until she used up most of her magic, resurrecting her great aunt from the dead. She also befriended a villainous talking animal and was exiled from her guild. So triple whammy there. She now helps her aunt run an enchanted inn, dealing with the quirky guests, trying to keep the aforementioned villainous animal friend in check, and feeling like the future she once longed for is gone, is out of reach, until she finds out about an old spell that could be her answer to restoring her power after all. Enter Luke, who's a handsome but icy magical historian who might have the key to unlock the spell's secrets. Luke, however, has no intention of getting involved in the shenanigans going on at the inn. Like, he's like, this isn't my business, or letting Sarah in past his very high walls that he's built up around him. But to everybody's surprise, he agrees to help her with her spell anyway. Now Sarah is juggling running a magical inn, trying to reclaim her lost magic, all while laying low enough to not get the guild who exiles her's attention. It just seems very heartwarming. Now, for a book that's not very heartwarming, we have another thriller mystery, Not Quite Dead Yet by Holly Jackson. This one comes out on July 22nd. Right off the bat, in 7 days, main character Jet Mason will be dead. Backing up a bit, Jet Mason is the daughter of one of the wealthiest families in Woodstock, Vermont, and she's still waiting for her life to begin. She's 27 years old. She always just kind of has this attitude that, oh, I'll get to it later. I have plenty of time. What's the rush? When she's violently attacked by an intruder on Halloween night, she sustains a catastrophic head injury, and she's told by doctors that she has a week to live before her head injury triggers a deadly aneurysm and she's gonna die. She has at most 7 days left. Like, it could be less, but she is determined to solve her own murder in the time that she has left. She's doing so with only the help of her childhood friend Billy. When I read this, I was like, raised eyebrow. Every time there's only one person, I'm like, oh, childhood friend, best friend, trust them with everything. I'm like, do you? Can they be trusted? But she enlists the help of her friend when her condition worsens and she can't do it alone. She starts looking at everybody in her life, even though she thought she could trust, in an attempt to uncover the truth before she physically can't anymore. Intriguing storyline. I want to know what's going to happen. This is another one that I feel like would be a really quick read. And that wraps up July. Should I move again for the last month? Maybe. We've been sitting here for kind of a second. I have seriously got to put some wallpaper on this wall. I've had wallpaper for it for months and I just haven't put it up because I feel like it's gonna be really hard when in reality it's probably not. And I want to ask for help, but I also don't want to ask for help because I hate asking for help. Back in here for the finale of our video. We have our August new releases, starting off with another thriller mystery, The Midnight Hour by Eve Chase. This one comes out on August 5th. This one I was drawn to because of the setting. It's set in Notting Hill in London in 1998. I fucking love London. I've only been twice, but I want to go back so bad. I just love everything about it. The story starts off with a woman named Dee Delancey, who's a loving mother, a grieving widow, sometimes a model. Dee heads out one night for the night and never comes home. Dee's reclusive daughter Maggie just refuses to accept that she just lost both of her parents within a span of 2 years because her father recently passed away also. Maggie has to keep the house, take care of her younger brother Kit, and shut out her mom's chaotic circle of friends in an attempt to keep the news of her disappearance from reaching the tabloids and the police. This is where I was like, why would you do that? Question marks. Why would you not want the police involved to help find her? I guess we'll have to read and find out. Just my commentary. Maggie feels like she's running out of time. In my notes I put, for what might I ask? So many questions. A stranger is lurking and she knows she needs to protect her brother at all costs. So there's that happening, and then fast forward 20 years, a mysterious new owner moves into the Delancey family's old home and they start digging out the basement to remodel. I think we all know where that, I feel like we all can tell where that's going. So, like, what the hell's going on here? I'm intrigued. Next, we have another romance. This one is Well Actually by Maisie Eddings. This one's also coming out on August 5th. The premise of this one I thought was funny and kind of cute. So this story follows our female main character named Ava. She's a journalist and she's the host of a show called Sausage Talk, which is kind of giving, like, in my mind, I'm assuming it's like Chicken Shop Date. On her show, she interviews B-list celebrities over lukewarm hot dogs. She studied journalism in college and she obviously never imagined that this is where her career would take her, but she's here. One day, Ava spontaneously, is it Eva? It's EVA. I never know if that's Eva or Ava. Eva? Maybe it's Eva. Sorry. One day, Eva spontaneously calls out her college ex-boyfriend. I mean, valid. As we all do. But it goes viral and she's thrust into the spotlight. That ex-boyfriend in question, his name is Riley, just so happens to be a social media creator, a popular one at that, who talks about deconstructing toxic masculinity and teaching men to be good partners. And his ex-girlfriend from college just like came on and blew up his spot and was like, this guy sucked. Now, Eva is forced to confront Riley on an episode of her show, and he's trying to make a deal with her. He's like, listen, how about I take you on a series of dates to make up for my past toxic behavior, and then we can debrief them on my channel to show how he's changed and show it as a lesson. And Eva literally has no desire to give Riley the satisfaction of her attention and time and like taking her out on dates, but she sees it for the career advancement opportunity that it is, getting exposure on his popular channel, and honestly like making lemonade out of the lemons of her college toxic relationship. So she agrees to collab with her ex. So he's taking her on fake dates, fake dating trope. You know what I mean. Like, you know where this is going. There's gonna be a reconciliation is what I predict. The dates that he plans that are fake might start to feel not so fake. And this begs the question, can the person who broke your heart also be the one to heal it? I think that sounds so cute and very culturally relevant to today. So interested in that. Seems like it's gonna be a really fun, like light read, which I'm gonna need after I'm done reading all of these thrillers. Speaking of that, we have 2 more thrillers coming up back to back right now. Next, we have We Are All Guilty Here by Karen Slaughter. This comes out on August 12th. This is actually the first in a new series. This is the first mystery in the new North Falls series. So North Falls is where this takes place. It's a small town where everyone knows everyone, or at least they think they do. One night during a fireworks show, 2 teenage girls vanish. For police officer Emmy, this case is personal and she knows she needs to help locate and bring home her best friend's daughter, which is one of the girls who went missing. But as she's combing through the puzzle that the girls left behind, she's realizing that she never really knew them at all. And actually nobody did. And there's the quote, every teenage girl has secrets, but who would kill for them? And what else is the town hiding? Small town mysteries. Love them. Small town, big secrets. Next we have Forget Me Not by Stacey Willingham. This is coming out on August 26th. Stacey is actually a Charleston local, which I love. I read another book by her, A Flicker in the Dark, and I really liked it, so I'm very excited to read her new one. The story begins 22 years ago when a main character, Claire's older sister, Natalie, disappeared shortly after her 18th birthday. But in the days after the disappearance, a man was arrested and the case was closed. In the years since, Claire has tried to escape her traumatic past by moving to the city and throwing herself full force into her career as an investigative journalist and just making a new start for herself, you know, getting away from it all, until she gets an unexpected call from her father forcing her to come back and face it all again. So now Claire's leaving the city and she has to spend the entire summer at her childhood home with her estranged mother. My question is why? Why can't she stay with her dad that called her? I don't know, what we'll see. Since there's really nothing that Claire wants to do less than that, she ends up looking for a seasonal job and she accepts one at a vineyard in a coastal South Carolina town called Galloway, and it's about an hour from where she grew up, so she has an excuse to move. At first glance, Galloway seems like the perfect escape for Claire. It's a slow-paced, nostalgic feeling town, and it's a place where her sister Natalie had fun her last summer before she disappeared. As soon as Claire starts getting settled into her new routine, she stumbles across an old diary written by one of the vineyard's owners. And upon first glance, this diary reads as just like a story of young rebellion and love, but as she keeps going, it quickly turns into something a lot more alarming as it begins to detail a bunch of unsolved crimes. So Claire obviously, rightfully, begins to obsess over the diary's contents, as I feel like we all would. And in turn, she feels more and more secluded by the day. She can't shake the feeling that this diary is somehow connected to her sister's disappearance. So obviously she's gonna need to get to the bottom of it and untangle this web that she's caught herself in. Everything about this, I'm very excited to read. The final book of this video, we have The Secret Book Society by Madeline Martin. This is another historical fiction, and this one also comes out on August 26th. Another one set in London. It's set in Victorian London in 1895. It follows 3 women trapped by oppressive marriages and societal expectations. All of them receive a mysterious invitation to an afternoon tea at the home of a reclusive Lady Duxbury. Obviously, they don't think much of it besides the fact that they're gonna go have tea, but beneath the harmless facade of this gathering lies a secret book club where the women can discover freedom, sisterhood, and the courage to rewrite their own stories. The three women, Eleanor, Rose, and Lavinia, each struggle with their own personal issues, and they're brought together by a thrice widowed countess named Lady Duxbury, whose husbands all suffered untimely deaths and have caused suspicion on her. The women form deep friendships and uncover secrets about their own respective marriages, pasts, and the risks that they face. Their courage is the only weapon against deadly secrets in an oppressive world, but one wrong step could cost them everything. So excited to read this. Oh my God, I love everything about this. Like, this sounds like it's gonna be so interesting. The female focus, like female friendships, books, book club, Victorian London, a thrice widowed countess. I'm obsessed. I cannot wait. That's that. That is the final book that I have to tell you about. There's obviously so many more books coming out this summer, books that have already come out that are definitely amazing. I just picked 20 that I was drawn to the most. So nice, a little bit of my kind of like reading tastes, I guess. It's all over the place. I'm a mood reader, so you never know. Like, so I'm in a different mood for a different thing every other day. But we have a very thriller, mystery heavy summer, it seems. Not complaining about that because I can eat up a thriller. That's gonna be all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for listening. This is the kind of video that you could have totally listened to as a podcast or like while you're doing something else. If you try any of these books or have read any of them, let me know your thoughts down below. Obviously spoiler free, so we can all read and enjoy them if we want to. Also, if you have any other new releases this summer that you're excited about, leave them down below. Let me know. I'm always looking for new books to put on my radar. And thank you so much for coming to my little book chat. Love you guys so much. Hopefully I'll see y'all in my next video, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your week. Bye.